Welcome to Fake Love and Flying Monkeys, the podcast where fake love is exposed. I'm Nova Gibson and I am your host. I'm the principal counsellor at Brighter Outlook Narcissistic Abuse Counselling.com.au. This space is dedicated to helping you reclaim your worth and understand the impact of toxic relationships with suspected narcissists. You deserve clarity, healing, and freedom from the pain of fake love and flying monkeys. So please leave a review and grab a copy of my book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. Let's uncover the truth and take back your power. Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. The relationship with the narcissist, which of course is not a normal relationship. It's a one-way ticket to hell, you could call it, and you certainly find that out eventually. But it's over. Whether you managed to get away, you managed to escape yourself, or you were discarded, it's ended. And maybe it was an intimate partner, maybe it was even your parent, and maybe it was a boss or even a so-called friend, but it's over. So the abuse is technically finished and you're out of that environment, but somehow you still feel trapped. It's something that you ruminate about all the time, this person, and your brain keeps going back to these little good moments, which you now know are not really good at all. They were fake and they were meant to deflect from all of the abuse. And you also have these fears that just don't make any sense to you, these situations that either you have a meltdown and a major anxiety attack, a panic attack, or you just avoid these places or these situations altogether because of the way they make you feel. In other words, you have these triggers. Maybe it's this person at work who wears this certain cologne that your abuser used to wear, and it just sends you spiraling, and you try and avoid this person because the smell of that cologne takes you back to the abuse because your abuser wore it all the time. Or maybe you have a panic attack every time you get behind the wheel of a car because every time you were in the car with your abuser, they would terrify you. They would threaten to drive off the road, or they would abuse you while you were driving, or maybe they used to leave you somewhere. They would drive to some secluded area, or they'd drive to a place that you were so unfamiliar with, and they'd make you get out of the car, and they would come back for you when they felt good and ready to come back and get you. And of course, expect your gratitude for doing so. And now, every time you get in the car, especially when you're driving on the highway or through a tunnel, anywhere where it feels like you can't get off and you're trapped and it's just never ending, maybe that's the thing that triggers you and you've just stopped driving. Or maybe it's a feeling every time you watch a certain type of movie and it brings this feeling on, whether it's sadness, whether it's just being reminiscent, whether it's a romantic, or maybe if it's even a thriller that you used to watch with your abusive ex. But the feeling you have when you're watching this movie is enough to, once again, send you into a major anxiety attack and start you thinking about your abuser again, and the feeling you have watching this movie mirrors the feeling you had when you were with your abuser. And guys, you would not believe how common that particular trigger is for so many of my clients. Everyone thinks they're the only one it's happening to. And this is why I wrote about it in my book, Fake Love. And by the way, guys, if you would like to have a one-on-one Zoom counseling session with me, no matter where you are in the world, please just see my website link in the description. But so many people can't drive anymore. They lose their freedom because they feel trapped behind the wheel. They were conditioned to pair together driving or even just being the passenger in the car with terror, the potential for even losing their life because their abuser used to drive so erratically with them all the time, and because of the feeling in particular of driving on a highway, because when you're on a highway, you can't get off. There's no exits potentially for a long time. And there's that feeling of having all of these people beeping at you while you're driving along at 20 Ks an hour because you're so scared. And that's because, number one, you have so much control when you're behind the wheel of a car, and you've been without control, without power for so long in that relationship, and now you have it and you don't know what to do with it. And also because of the fear of not being able to get away. When you're on the highway, you're potentially trapped for a long time, and that is scary. And so many people stop driving. The first panic attack they have then stops them driving for a long time because of the fear of having another panic attack, because it was so terrifying. So there are just some very, very common examples of CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And in all the thousands of clients that I have spoken to in the years that I've been counseling narcissistic abuse victims, whilst I don't diagnose, I don't believe there is one person who hasn't exhibited symptoms of CPTSD simply because of the ongoing nature of their trauma. So why is it so normal and literally expected that a victim of narcissistic abuse would experience CPTSD? Why is it so common? Well, let's think about it. The trauma that you endured, it was something that was prolonged. You were exposed to this trauma on an ongoing basis, 24 hours a day. You were walking on eggshells, developing all of these coping mechanisms and survival techniques that you didn't even know you were developing. And without knowing it, once again, because of this very, very powerful trauma bond and the fact that they make you so dependent on them, you're powerless to escape. And it's not just one incident, like, for example, a car crash or one flash of terror. It is sustained psychological warfare. You are in this continuing battle, this war, and you don't even know the rules of engagement, because of course your abuser is not going to give you those rules because they want you to be handicapped so they can control you. So let's just briefly look at the difference between PTSD, which more people seem to have heard of, and Cptsd, post-traumatic stress disorder, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So I think the main difference is that PTSD usually refers to one traumatic event. For example, an assault or some life-threatening event like an accident. And complex post-traumatic stress disorder relates to prolonged or repeated trauma. Example, domestic violence, neglect, emotional abuse. So CPTSD changes you. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you feel about yourself. It changes your behavior, your routine. It changes the way you think about others and the rest of the world. So here are some signs that you might be struggling with CPTSD. Number one, the emotional dysregulation, where you just find yourself overreacting emotionally, or maybe you freeze in certain situations. And this has nothing to do with you being weak or crazy or having something wrong with your intelligence, but more so it's that those may have been some of the survival instincts that you picked up when you were in the abusive environment. For example, when we get into a potentially healthy relationship and a healthy person might innocently say something like, "Oh, are you going to wear that?" And you bite back. Why? What's wrong with this dress? And the reason that you're engaging in what might seem to that other person as an overreaction is because that was a survival instinct for you in the abuse, because you were constantly under attack. So you had to be hyper vigilant to attack, to danger 24/7. You have to be hyper vigilant when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. So you don't realize when you're in it and you're walking on eggshells 24 hours a day, that becomes your way of being. It's a survival technique. You have to be looking over your shoulder because you never know what sort of person is going to walk through that front door, and you always have to be on alert on how to protect yourself. A second classic one would be trust issues and relationship struggles and issues. How can you trust anyone else when the person who professed to love you so much, and of course you loved them so much at one stage, how can you trust anyone else when that person betrayed you at a soul level? You feel like you're paranoid and that this person doesn't mean what they say and they have an ulterior motive. It really stops you from developing relationships because you think that this person might be manipulating you, lying to you, just like your last abuser did. Or maybe it's just the chronic shame and guilt. You never feel like you're good enough, and you don't believe people when they give you a compliment because, of course, your abuser would tell you one day that what you were doing was amazing, and then the next day you would do the same thing and they would punish you for it. So you have this just amazing, huge sense of shame and guilt that you're not lovable, and you replay all of these interactions in your mind, wondering if you did something wrong and if this person didn't like you because of the way you were acting, you said something you should have, and you apologize all the time for things that aren't your fault, and you just feel guilty all the time and like you never do the right thing. Or maybe you people please. You just want to avoid conflict. And of course, you want people to like you. And that once again stems from being told by your abuser that there was something wrong with you. You're unlovable, you're unworthy, and that you were always doing something wrong. So people pleasing is a huge one, and it comes also from having a lack of boundaries, not being allowed to have any boundaries in the relationship with your abuser. And because having boundaries or doing anything for yourself, not making it about everyone else, was just selfish. And besides the obvious triggers, ones that you would be able to pick up on, which are things that the abuser may have owned that another person owns, or maybe it's that your abuser had a mustache, so every time you see someone with a mustache, it sends you into a meltdown, because you can pick obviously the association between that person with the mustache and your abuser. So besides those obvious triggers, there are going to be ones that you just don't understand. And that's because they're not always out there and easy to identify when you have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's so important, guys, to get lots and lots of support. Your nervous system needs to heal, and you were in that war zone where you were 24 hours a day in an active danger zone. So, of course, you have to reduce the contact with the narcissist if that is still taking place. But you also have to have your abuse validated and reclaim your reality. You are not crazy. You're not too sensitive. But learning about Cptsd will give you the tools, the language for what is going on for you, and help undo some or all of that gaslighting that your abuser put you through and was always trying to distort your reality for you. So just to summarize, guys, complex post-traumatic stress disorder after narcissistic abuse is real. And I would be shocked if you didn't exhibit symptoms of this disorder. And it can be very painful, but it's also something you can recover from. You are not too damaged. That's just what your abuser wanted you to believe. And you are not destined to live this way forever in fear, avoidance, shame, or just this emotional chaos all the time. Healing doesn't mean you forget or that you're pretending it didn't happen. It just means learning to trust yourself again. And it means creating a life where your nervous system does not have to completely, continuously stay in survival mode. And that brings us to the end of another Fake Love and Flying Monkeys episode. Yes, it's such a huge topic for victims, Cptsd, and often you don't understand why you're acting the way you do, and wondering if you'll ever get back to that place, that person you were before you were abused. So really important to understand it, guys, and get lots and lots of support. Now, if you would like to have a healing session, a counseling session with me online, please just see my website in the description, where you'll also see a link to my best-selling book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. On that note, guys, it's bye from me for now. Until tomorrow's episode, please share this podcast. Please let other victims know that there is support out there. And I will see you there, or you'll hear from me at the very least. And until then, remember, guys, you are worthy of love, and you are certainly worthy of a whole lot more than a lifetime of fake love and flying monkeys.